you need to have, for sure, the technology to make it real. Yeah, and that means for sure the SAP AppHaus, we make innovation real in the SAP context with SAP products and currently focusing a lot on Business Technology Platform, but always combining this with S4HANA, with Ariba, with all our other solutions that we have. Yeah? And then there's the fifth element that we added, which is leadership. Because if you look at current times, things move so fast. Yeah? And a top-down leadership is not working anymore. That means you need to empower your employees to really be creative, to be fast, to adapt.
Thank you very much for joining another edition of the never-ending climb for a stronger supply chain and procurement for companies running SAP. Today, we have the pleasure of Andreas Hauser joining us. And Andreas, you and I have known each other for at least 10 years now, and you're the SVP, the global leader of all of the app houses around the world. Also, loves kite surfing, snowboarding. I don't hold the snowboarding thing against you. I know I like skis and you like it more, but that's okay. And you've been at SAP longer than it might appear, because you've got like a 4-digit employee number, which that's a really long time. We don't have to tell everyone how long. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Sean, for inviting me today to the session. And I tell you, I tried skiing again. Because when I was 3 years old, I started with skiing until I was 16. And then it got boring. And then I built my first snowboard on my own because I didn't have money. And for 35 years, I bought it. And last year, I tried again skiing. And I tell you, it was really a great experience. Therefore, I do both now.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's even better. Yeah, I tried snowboarding. Unfortunately, I have a long way to fall. And my wrists were a little sore. I do need to keep practicing, though. I love to imagine that there's some parallels between surfing and boarding, at least for getting up and getting to ride something fun. And one of the things that we were talking about was how there's this app house idea, and I think it's not well understood. What is it? Can you share what is the SAP App House? What's the idea, and why is it here?
Yeah, very, very happy to talk about this. I think, first of all, App House is written with an A, like a German house. It's coming from Bauhaus. It's about design, German design, and simplicity. And we started 10 years ago, even more than 10 years ago now. When customers started complaining about user experience of SAP, and this is the time where we met first. Where even before you became a Post Network partner, I remember we did a video at Sapphire somewhere in the cellar. I remember about SAP Fiori. It was at that time. And the whole idea about the App House, and I'm not really many years working for SAP, but I didn't start in the kindergarten. And I was in development, product management, and I found a passion for design more than 25 years ago. I was leading always global design teams. I was responsible for the design of business by design, the on-demand solutions, and then more than 10 years ago, built up the App House. And one thing that I really learned by really engaging with lots of customers is that if you start with the people and first understand what is really the problem to solve, you get to faster and much better solutions. And we call this the human-centered approach of innovation. And this is what I and the team and the App House really fundamentally believe in and are passionate about. We should start with people in all our customer projects. Because, we are a technology company. And people are in the IT organizations. They talk a lot about technology. The technology is an enabler. We talk about products and technologies, but if you combine understanding what are the real challenges that people have and then leveraging the capabilities of technology to make it real, then you come to the real solutions. And this is where what AppHaus stands for. We are a customer co-innovation team or teams across the globe. We understand the problem of the customer and help also the customer understanding what their problem is, because that's also interesting. Their customers are also huge organizations and they also work in silos. And I tell you, the eye-opening moment is when on the customer side, IT, business, and the end users are in one room, physical or virtually. It's typically the first time they talk with each other.
Yeah.
And then they agree on what's really the problem, what's the use case which creates a high value. And then we help with the AppHaus to really solve the problem. And we are only happy if the solution is live on the customer side. It's that simple. It sounds really simple, but it's complex sometimes to really execute on this. And this is the fundamental idea of the AppHaus. We started 2013 with the AppHaus, focusing on usability, evolved over time. Happy to talk later on a little bit more about this also. And we then thought about how can we scale this globally? Because if you look at the magnitude, when we talk about we want to get human-centered innovation into all customer engagements, we have more than 400,000 customers, more than 20,000 partners, more than 40,000 people in the SAP field organization, where we need to influence to work a little bit in a different way. Not starting with technology, starting with people. And the question that I always had, my team alone, also if I would have 1,000 people or even more, I would not be able to solve the problem. That means, how can we change the system? And the way how we do this with the AppHaus, a team organizationally within SAP, we have a team in Heidelberg, Berlin, and Palo Alto. We typically focus on incubation projects, new products, technologies, and new methods. Currently, for sure, generative AI, DataSphere, SAP Build is on top of what my team is running, and we create customer references. Then we scale with the AppHaus network partners. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a second. We have 21 partners with probably 20,000 employees who do the same as we do. And the third level is we make all our knowledge about the methodologies available for free for everybody. This means by doing this, we democratize human-centered innovation, and we have more than 70 tools, best practices available for free on our AppHaus Innovation Toolkit.
I love that sense of scale because people are really at the heart of everything. And when we think about the old way of describing projects, of there's people and there's process and there's technology, I tend to think that the technology is the easy part. The process isn't too bad, but the people are tricky. And sometimes this is because it's challenging for some of those people to actually describe what it is they're facing as a problem. And sometimes this is a factor of imagination or a factor of team or a factor of department or scope or departmental boundaries. And this is one of my favorite ways to help bring people back into the equation, because the old way of doing technology was you take the best practice processes and the best technology and you manage this onto the people. But I think we saw that really didn't go over so well. And by bringing the people right back into it, you can still stay standard and do the little things to remove the friction, do the little things to add the level of automation, to add the smoothness to the adoption, because adoption is really where the value gets unlocked.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. And I think we need to be really careful about when we talk. Sometimes it's really misunderstood what this started with people really means. I think, I make an example. Probably an example, more than 20 years ago, I did user research in China. Yeah, and there was a customer, there were probably 50 people typing in invoices, and there was a guy who had 100 invoices on the table, entered 20 of them, and pressed then 20 times refresh. And then I asked, how satisfied are you with the software solution? They said, oh, it's amazing. It's much better than before. I love it. If you now just listen to the user, you would be done. Now you observe how the person works. You know what the technical capabilities are. And now you come with a solution the user even couldn't come to. That means we could use OCR, we could automate the process and only send the 5% of invoices that he manually needs to adapt. And I think this is important to understand what is meant with you have to start with people. You need to involve them in the process, but important is you need to understand the technical capabilities. You need to understand what is the business value and match the people part. And I'll tell you another example, which is also really a funny customer project that we worked on. There was one customer, they have big boilers. And there are people who inspect them regularly and clean them. And in the IT organization of this customer, they built a mobile team. And I just said, oh, cool. The guys who do the people who do the inspection, they need to fill out 5 pages of documents afterwards. Let's bring this into a PDF digitally, give them an iPhone and let them enter. And we said, whoa, before we start developing, let's do following. Let's do user research. Just for 2 hours. Get into the factory and look what does it mean for them. And the funny thing was that the person who was coming out of this boiler or getting into had a yellow dress, big gloves, came out of the boiler dark. Now, the mobile device, iPhone, was not the right device. The second thing is we looked at the pages of document and we found out 95% of the data where master data or data coming are already in the system. That means when we looked at this user only had to enter 5 fields. Now, it sounds really like a very funny story, but imagine if they would have started building the solution, giving it to the user, how much money they would have burned, and how much money they saved by just going 2 hours into the factory and observing how people do. And this is what we mean with human-centered innovation. It needs to be something that we in all engagements do, involving them, not exactly doing and implementing what they say, but building up the empathy, connecting the technology and business value, and then coming up with the right solution.
Yeah, empathy, I know, is near and dear to my heart. It's right at the middle of pretty much everything that we do. And when you combine empathy with that spark for what's possible, this is so important. That concept of digging deep to understand what really matters and how easily somebody from another department, another building could go, oh, look at this 6-page thing. We have to make this easier. We have to make it a digital form, without going and watching and realizing that nobody's filling out 6 pages of anything with rubber gloves. Or if it's minus 40 outside, and minus 40 doesn't matter if it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. It's just really cold. Pens don't work. And this idea that when you ask somebody what they need, they don't always tell you. There's so many, I'm sure we'd be here all day with the stories of how when you imagine the problem that you need to solve, but you don't go and really look at what people are doing and how they're working, and you don't notice these things, and you don't test the idea, then you can very quickly, whether it's AI or forms or other systems or tools, you can so quickly end up down a path that's very expensive and really useless. So this validation step is so, I know we share this passion.
Absolutely. And you brought up the topic of empathy. Yeah. And I want probably also build a little bit on this one. And, I come out of there, and you both out of the design discipline or diffuser experience. And this is also how we started with the AppHaus team. Because typically designers and user researchers are typically high empathic people. Yeah. Now, and also, if you look at design thinker, also lots of people who moderate workshops, they're typically empathic people. And these are typically the kind of skills that you need to add to the project. Now, when we started in the beginning with just focus on usability, and out of the projects we created SAP Fiori developed, and now it's all over all the products. But we did not stop with the AppHaus, just focusing on usability. We applied this approach then on reimagining business processes. And I remember the first project we did at AMG, these nice cars. They wanted to reimagine their 3-year car development process. And what we did, we put all end users participating at a 3-year car development process into one room and let them model in a gamification way how they work. And 50% of the challenges were organizational challenges, nothing to do with software. And this is where I really realized the power of this human-centered approach. It is really bringing the people together. And and I have so many funny experiences. If the AppHaus currently, I'm in Heidelberg, you see it in our Sherlock Holmes room. Doesn't really look like normal office building. When we get a CEO of a company, CIO, and end users and business people into one room, these are all people. Yeah. After getting into a workshop, they take off the ties, they take off the jacket, they start working, they start talking with other like humans. Yeah? And then you hear the people from the IT organization, we need to do blockchain or IoT. And the end users, guys, sorry, we have a completely different problem outside when I'm working in a factory. And I think hosting this dialogue, facilitating this dialogue, this is where you need to have the empathy and bring the people together. It's not, honestly, what we do is not rocket science at all. It is very simple. But I think we really unlearned in the industry how to do it. Yeah. And this really goes back 20 years when Hasso Plattner in 2004, after reading an article from IDEO about design thinking before he went on stage at Sapphire, he went on stage and said, SAP now does design thinking. Wow. And it was off script. Yeah. And you asked him why.
And the whole team goes, wait, how do we do that? And what is it? Because I guess we do it now.
It was so funny. And when we talked with him, he said, it remembered him when he's reading the article from IDEO about how they started the company. He said, I was a developer. I was sitting right beside the user. I was programming. I was showing. I was iterating. It wasn't called design thinking at that point of time. But he said, we need to get this back into our DNA because at that time, we were about 50,000 employees at SAP. We specialized in roles. We globalized and we unlearned how to work with our customers and users. And this is how the SAP design thinking journey started 20 years ago. We started the first 10 years focusing on us internally, on the development organization. And then with the AppHaus, we started really opening it up for partners and for really working with customers. And now the funny story is where I'm really very proud about the team. We last year we had our 10th anniversary celebration, and I had the opportunity to talk with Tim Brown, one of the founders of IDEO. Remember the article Hasso Plattner was reading 20 years ago, coming from IDEO. And I told him about about our AppHaus network, what we do, and so on. And he said, "Wow, really cool what you did. Congratulations to 10 years." He said, "All your competitors tried, you succeeded." And this was for us the biggest honor to get from somebody who really was on a lifelong mission to get this human-centered approach into the entire industry. And therefore, we know that we are definitely on the right track, but I tell you, it is not easy. It is constantly fighting, constantly convincing people. It's not easy, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, and along the way, I mean, I remember when the AppHaus was only run by SAP, and at some point there was, the first partner in not far from you in Europe that was invited to run an AppHaus. And then, I've been meaning to ask you, what was it that made you ask us to be the first AppHaus run by a partner in the Americas?
Yeah, then we started 2013, and then after 3 years, we saw the power. We saw the success, and we thought about how can we scale. And looking now a little bit back on SAP's success the last 50 years, it was heavily relying on partners. We have 20,000 of them. And then I said, we had the opportunity to really work like a startup in a big corporation. And I said, let's try it out. Let's try it out. We tried it out with a partner. It was really successful. And then we again met again. And then we started with you guys in North America because you have the same DNA. You're focusing, and therefore we really look for partners, not just on people who implement technology. There are thousands of them, but people who have the DNA to combine a human-centered approach in a creative environment, which is the space, now physical or virtual or even hybrid, and make innovation real with technology. And there are 5 key elements that really make this approach a success. This is the process, and we all like processes in the industry.
I've heard that some people in Germany like processes.
Oh yes, it's the process. It's the place. That means the environment where you work, because the space unleashes creativity. And you also had already a creative space. I think you didn't need to build it. You had it because it was part of your DNA. You knew the power of working in a creative environment.
Yeah, it's just how we roll.
Yeah. And then the third element are people. Yeah. But then this is how we started. We started in the beginning with people, process, place. But then we learned over time there is more. You need to have, for sure, the technology to make it real. Yeah. And that means, for sure, the SAP AppHaus, we make innovation real in the SAP context with SAP products and currently focusing a lot on Business Technology Platform. But always combining this with S4HANA, with Ariba, with all our other solutions that we have. Yeah? And then there's the 5th element that we added, which is leadership. Because if you look at current times, things move so fast. Yeah? And a top-down leadership is not working anymore. That means you need to empower your employees to really be creative, to be fast, to adapt. And this also, when we look for our partners, we also look for leaders who have this DNA. Yeah? Because if I look at my team, the last 10 years, every 2 years, we reinvented ourselves. It was not easy as a leader, I tell you, because we started with usability, outcome was Fiori. We focused on business process innovation, then business model innovation. Then our focus was helping customers building up an AppHaus to transform the organization. Then we focused on Leonardo technologies, then on Business Technology Platform. Now our focus is on business AI, generative AI. That means we were always reinventing ourselves, focusing on latest strategic SAP products and technologies, and also always refine the methodologies. Yeah? And we have now a new workshop format available, or even 2, to explore business AI or Gen AI use cases, or even we created a very new one, because after you explored the use case that you can use, you need to make it real.
You make it real.
Yeah, you have then a discover and a design phase for this use case. Also workshop format available for everybody. Check it out. Just download it for free with Mural template. And what you do there, if you have a very concrete use case, you first of all look at the SE's process, the people involved, data involved. You see how you can use AI or Gen AI to improve the process, and then you design the to-be process. And this is well packaged in a predefined best practices workshop format that everybody, all partners, all customers, all SAP people can already use for free.
That's fantastic. I know every once in a while it was recently 11 years for me having started my business, and you look back over your shoulder sometimes and you go, wow, look how many things we've got to overcome and how much we've grown and things like this. It's an amazing journey, and I'm so grateful that we've got to go do this together. I'm hoping that everybody watching has been able to take home some examples, some ideas of how and why the old school take the requirements and go build them is a really quick recipe for a waste of money, and how important it is to go and build that.
I think the value of this network, we've now 21 partners, amazing partners like you. And I really want to thank you for the great, outstanding collaboration, the procurement solution, other solutions that come out of your organization and you get on SAP Store are really brilliant.
Thank you.
You have the right DNA. And the reason why we also look at partners like you is because you're small, you're agile, you're not 400,000 people big or something like that. Yeah, they're also very cumbersome organizations like SAP, slow, and means we started looking at this was really intentionally looking typically more on the boutique partners, focusing on a certain region, focus on a certain domain, who are agile and can adapt. Yeah, and now the cool thing is, they move quickly and make things happen. Yeah? And not about bureaucracy that we typically have in large organizations. Now, we have 21 partners all over the world. This means we have combined with the SAP ones, we have 24 locations all over the world that can be used for customer co-innovation projects, either run with SAP or by the partner. And even because these are smaller partners and all of them are even growing. Now, if partners want to do a workshop with a customer who has a subsidiary in another country, they can leverage the space. That means the interesting thing is here from an organizational setup point of view, these are independent organizations that work together. They have the same mission, the same vision, the same DNA, and where it makes sense, they work together. For example, we have cases where two partners together build a new solution.
Yep.
And because they have complementary skills. And I think this is also the future of organizations. Yeah, it's not the big monolithic organizations. If you start building up such a network, and the next thing that I'm really thinking about is getting these kind of, I would say, advocates, people who are passionate about it, like you, in our customer organization.
Yeah.
And there are people who want to transform, and we build up several of these center of excellence in customer organizations and also bringing them even together. And that's one thing a little bit on my wish list for the next 5 to 10 years, to evolve the network on the next level also on the customer.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love that extension, that concept of leverage, of where you can help create the space and create the opportunity for great ideas and great capabilities to spread. It's magic. Give you a lever long enough. This is amazing. Andreas, thank you so much. I love that you've been able to join to share your light and help share some ideas with all of these people that are watching. And this has been another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. Andreas, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. Thanks for the invitation.